in all the 36 states and the FCT. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has said that Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is fully equipped to combat terrorism and other forms of insecurity in the region. He also said the bloc faces no challenges raising funds for the same purpose. Tinubu said this after a Troika Plus meeting at the Aso Rock Villa with Presidents Patrice Talon of Benin Republic, Omaro Embalo of Guinea-Bissau, Mohamed Bazoum of Niger Republic, and President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, yesterday. The West African leaders added that he is confident in ECOWAS' financial planning and engineering capabilities to secure the necessary resources to tackle terrorism and insecurity. From the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to ask the Federal Character Commission (FCC) to make available details of appointments undertaken by federal ministries, departments, and agencies between 2015 to 2023, covering the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The resolution was made following the adoption of a motion titled "Need to Compel the Federal Character Commission to diligently discharge its constitutional and statutory mandate and responsibility," moved by Paul Namchi during the plenary. Namchi, who represents Isuzo and Enugu East Federal Constituency, noted that the FCC Act was enacted in 1995 and enshrined in the 1999 Constitution with the primary responsibility to promote, monitor, and enforce compliance with the principles of the equitable distribution of all bureaucratic, economic, media, and political positions across all tiers of government. According to him, no other constitution in Nigeria's history entrenched such regulatory body and vested some with powers to facilitate national integration through equitable, transparent, and unbiased sharing of national wealth and public official positions. The federal lawmaker lamented that 28 years after the enactment aimed at national cohesion and equal opportunities and 24 years after its constitutional entrenchment, public perception is that there is an unchecked domination of bureaucratic, economic, media, and political positions by the section of the country to the detriment of others. The House, however, gave the committee 4 weeks to submit its report for further legislative action. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has also cautioned security agencies to desist further from destroying vessels containing stolen crude oil, saying the practice is having a negative impact on the environment. This followed the adoption of a motion on the need to discourage the destruction of vessels laden with stolen crude oil with a view to curbing environmental pollution in the Niger Delta region. Moved by Thomas Eretomi in the motion told the House that there have been reports of interception, arrest, and subsequent destruction of vessels laden with stolen crude oil in the Niger Delta area in recent times. He cited a vessel, MT Tura 2, which he claimed was destroyed in the Escravas River in Warri, to ensure strict compliance against vessels destruction. On judicial matters, the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has asked the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to admit him to bail on self-recognition pending the hearing and determination filed against him by the federal government. The bail application, which was filed by his lead counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Joseph Daudu, was brought pursuant to the relevant provisions of the Constitution, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, and the inherent powers of the courts. The suspended CBN governor also said that granting him bail would afford him adequate time and facilities to prepare his defense to the charge. Referring to his prosecution and reputation and past credible record, as well as his status of being a former CBN governor, the defendant said he is not a flight risk and would not jump bail if it is granted. While promising to attend trial punctually, the defendant also indicated his willingness to provide responsible sureties as may be required by the court as a condition for the grant of bail. Still on judicial matters, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has fixed November 14th for the adoption of final written addresses in the trial of the former Speaker of the House of Assembly in Lagos State, Adeyemi Ekuforji, on allegations of laundering over 338.8 million naira. Justice Mohammed Liman adjourned for the adoption of written addresses after the defendant's counsel tendered the certified true copies CTCS of the court proceedings of 2014 before the previous trial judge, Justice Ibrahim Buba, signaling the close of its defense. The counsel to the defendant, Dele Olatunji, through whom he tendered the CTCS of the 2014 proceedings. Meanwhile, the court also admitted in evidence Olatunji's statement, which he made during the interrogation with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. In education, the Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, DTH Channel, says over 137 students sponsored abroad by the fund absconded. The channel made this known when he appeared before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the alleged mismanagement of 2.3 trillion naira tertiary education tax by country after completing their programs. The Executive Secretary added that the TED Fund is working with stakeholders for stringent and effective measures to be taken against those who refuse to return to the country so Nigerians can benefit from their expertise. In a separate development, the Speaker of Cross River State House of Assembly, Albert Ayabem, has disclosed that the House will soon enact a state law that will mete out severe punishment to kidnappers. Ayabem made this known while speaking with the leadership of the Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) when they called on him to seek the Assembly's support to rescue their colleague, Professor Ekanem Ephraim, of the University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, who was kidnapped a week ago. Expressing sadness over incessant cases of kidnappings in part of the state, he appealed to the NMA not to carry out their threat of withdrawing their professional services, assuring them of the self-release of the doctor. Back here, doctors and nurses in Uyo have warned the people with HIV are prone to having tuberculosis. Speaking with Spectrum Television, a nurse at Handmaid Hospital in Botidemo said HIV and tuberculosis are linked and warned that such persons should desist from self-medications. Meanwhile, Dr. Nkero Emetuk of Life Links Hospital said if tuberculosis is not treated, it could lead to more health complications like lung damage, liver or kidney problems, and warned that people should follow the doctor's directions for treatment. Our correspondent Blessing Dixon completes the report.
In 2021, 1.9 million Nigerians were living with 14 who were HIV positive, equaled 170,000. Tuberculosis is the second leading infectious killer disease globally. People living with HIV are more likely than others to become sick with tuberculosis. This is because HIV weakens the immune system, which makes it harder for the body to fight TB germs. Spectrum Television spoke to Dr. Nkeruem Etok and Nurse Mbatidem Morgan, who explained the link between HIV and tuberculosis while stating the negative effect of self-medication.
When you have those symptoms, the only way you can confirm that this patient is a tuberculosis patient is to go for tests.
We know that HIV and tuberculosis they are husband and wife. So that is why we put our eye to, especially for people with HIV because of their immune system. And you know that tuberculosis is an airborne disease. So people think that they are free in the society. No, that is why we advise for total medical checkup at least once in a year. Because before some signs and symptoms of TB that some people may also neglect are coughing, persistent fever or intermittent fever that we may have this week, next week goes come back. Then drenching night sweat. This one, if no matter how the weather is cold, that person is still sweating. That is the symptoms of TB. That is the signs of TB. So that is then coughing. Now another one is losing of weight. This person that was fat before is losing weight every day. He's going to the hospital doing HIV test negative. Have you gone for TB screening?
So it is not that it is to the pharmacy or to the chemist and just buy things and go and take, and it does not go. It means this thing is not a medicine thing I have tried. So he resorts to know. Go to the hospital, meet your doctor, get the proper diagnosis, and get treated. Once you are treated, you are good to go.
HIV is not a death sentence. It can be treated as a chronic illness or a chronic disease. In Uyo, Blessing Dixit, Spectrum Television News.
Now to Africa, where South Africa's ruling African National Congress ANC is reportedly hosting meetings with members of political parties from Brazil, Russia, India, China and others ahead of the BRICS summit on August 22nd in Johannesburg. Report says the conflict in Ukraine remains one of the main topics of discussion. According to report, it is not clear if Russian President Vladimir Putin will attend next month's summit of the BRICS emerging economies. But South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile said in an interview that the country is trying to persuade Putin to stay away to avoid legal and diplomatic fallout over his international arrest warrant. Still in Africa, China's President Xi Jinping has held China's relationship with Algeria in a meeting in the capital, Beijing. With his Algerian counterpart, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Xi Jinping said China and Algeria for 65 years have shared weal and war, helped each other, and the friendship between the two countries has been strengthened over time. Report says the meeting takes place a month before the BRICS summit in South Africa. According to reports, since 2014, Algeria and China have been strategic partners and have pledged to expand their cooperation in the economy, trade, energy, space, and health. On the foreign scene, the Foreign Affairs Committee of the European Parliament has urged the International Criminal Court (ICC) to consider an arrest warrant for Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko over the country's role in the Ukraine war. The committee also called on the Belarusian administration to release all political prisoners and expressed concern over the country's subordination to Moscow. The EU lawmakers said Belarus is responsible for damage caused to and crimes committed in Ukraine, including through the government's role in illegal transfers of children. Recall that the ICC in March issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russian official Maria Belova for an alleged scheme to deport Ukrainian children to Russia. Still on the foreign scene, statistics in Canada shows that the consumer price index CPI rose by 2.8% in June, down from 3.4% in May, as the rate spiked a year ago in June 2022 to 8.1%. Agencies said while the declaration was fairly broad-based, another base year effect in gasoline prices led to the slowdown in the CPI. Meanwhile, Transport Minister Omar Al-Gabra said Canada's inflation rate drops to 2.8%, which is lower than most incomparable countries in the world. Still to come in the news, Bayern Munich wins FC Rotterdam 27-0 in pre-season friendly. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. On our business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has released an updated list of Bureau de Change BDC dealers approved in the country. According to the list published by the Apex Bank, the total number of approved BDC operators reduced to 2,991 and total licenses withdrawn as 2,698. Recall that in 2022, the Central Bank published a similar list in a document titled List of CBN Licensed Bureau de Change as at December 31, 2021, where the CBN had approved 5,689 dealers. Reports say the number of BDCs grew by more than 100% under the former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who banned the sale of foreign exchange to BDCs over round-tripping and involvement in illegal financial flows. Under the new administration, a document titled Policy Advisory Council Report National Economy Subcommittee advised an implementation of key reforms such as raising the capitalization for BDC operators. And still in business, the Nigerian Port Authority (NPA) has said that 1,852 vessels completed operations in the first half of 2023. The authority said it generated 191.4 billion naira as revenue within the period under review. It noted that 55.7 billion naira was remitted to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. The Managing Director, NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, discloses in 2023 first half performance report. Bello Koko said that going by the current momentum and recurrent trend of shipping volumes peaking from July to December, the authority will be protecting over 500 billion naira revenue by the end of the year 2023. In health, public health experts have called on the federal and state government to increase disease surveillance and control mechanism to ensure that the first anthrax case confirmed in Niger State does not spread to other parts of the country. They also urged the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) to isolate and vaccinate all the animals in Niger State as part of the measures to ensure that no more cases is recorded. According to a public health expert, Dr. Euphemia Okonkwo, there is a need for the federal government of Niger State government and NCDC to procure anthrax spore vaccine for immediate vaccination of all animals within the point of outbreak and environs. Also speaking, another public health expert, Dr. Christian Ekwunobi, said he is optimistic that the NCDC would contain anthrax disease the way it did with COVID-19 pandemic, adding that anthrax is not an airborne disease that can spread like a wildfire. Meanwhile, a consultant and infectious disease physician, Dr. Ioren Akase, has said that there is an urgent need for the federal government to make funding available for monitoring and surveillance to effectively respond to anthrax disease ahead of infectious disease unit and COVID-19 response team at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, ED Araba, said anthrax is a deadly zoonotic disease that can be transmitted from animals to humans. The consultant advised Nigerians to adhere strictly to health guidelines issued by health authorities such as exercising, caution when buying animals like cows, camels, sheep, goats, and other livestock, especially from neighboring countries like Benin, Chad, Niger, Ghana, and Togo, to reduce the potential risk of infection and spread of the disease. And Sport Bayern Munich has begun their pre-season preparations with a 27-0 victory over FC Retag Essen. Reports say 4 players scored hat-trick Jamal Musiala, Marcel Sabitzer, and 18-year-old Matthew Steele. It found the back of the net 5 times, and Serge Gnabry also grabbed their 3. Meanwhile, Rafael Guerrero netted a brace, while Sadio Mane and Kingsley Coman also got on the scoresheet. The 27-goal round bested their previous match against Rotterdam Egan in 2019 when Bayern won 23-0. According to report, the team are having their pre-season training camp in Tijuana near the Austrian border. Still in sport, the British and Irish Lions will play a New Zealand and Australia Invitational as part of their 9-match tour down under in 2025. The historic fixture in Adelaide will precede test matches with the Wallabies in Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. Reports say a sellout at the 100,000 capacity Melbourne cricket ground would smash records for Lions test match. The series finale will be played in the presence of more than 80,000 fans in Sydney's Olympic Park. According to reports, an agreement between the Lions Premiership Rugby and the United Rugby Championship will ensure an unprecedented 2-week preparation period before the tour opener in Perth against the Western Force. On our entertainment news, Nollywood veteran Kanayo has cautioned filmmakers over misleading pictures of dressing and makeup in movies. Kanayo, in a video on his Instagram page, said that most times filmmakers do not align with movie costumiers. According to the actor, it is important to be realistic in images created by filmmakers, noting that by doing so, the industry would become more credible and acquire a more formidable character with which it cannot be ignored in the national and international agenda. Still on entertainment, Spice Girl Melanie C, pop star Self-Esteem, and Wolf Alice singer Ellie Rosell have teamed up to record a song for the England's Women's World Cup team. Titled Call Me a Lioness, the track references England players Chloe Kelly and Ella Tooney, who scored the winning goals at the 2022 Euro final. According to reports, both players are back on the squad for the World Cup, which kicks off in Australia this week. Melcy said she was cheering on the women's team to bring the cup home again. That's all we have for you at this time. Don't sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. Also, follow us on Instagram, on Twitter rather, at spectrumtonline, all as one word. You've been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Rachel David White. Enjoy the rest of your day.